Hey everyone, welcome back to my channel. Today I wanted to talk about a TV show called Shadow and Bone. It's based on a book series written by Leigh Bardugo, who created this whole universe, what he dubs the Grisha-verse. It's directed by Eric Heiserer, and he's done works like Arrival, Bird Box, so he's done a relatively good job with some movies in the past. So Shadow and Bone takes place in this kind of post-apocalyptic steampunk supernatural versus human era universe. In this universe there are two kinds of beings. There are human beings, and then there are what is known as Grisha. Now Grisha are supernatural beings. They have the ability to do things like water bending, air bending, fire bending. Is this the last airbender? I don't know. There's nothing new under the sun, I swear. Grisha are just superhuman. They have superhuman abilities. They can affect the elements. They can affect people. There's very much a separation between humans and Grisha. Alina and Mal grow up orphans, and they're able to avoid being tested to see if they're Grisha or not, which is something that typically happens as you're a child. Later, you find out, Alina finds out and gets tested for being a Grisha, and she finds out that she's not only a Grisha, but she is a sun summoner, which is something that many people have questioned to exist. Others treat it as a deity. And a sun summoner is important because there's a huge rift of darkness splitting the country in half. So a sun summoner could potentially bring the end to this darkness. Whoever adapted this to screen, I think, did a really poor job. Like many other TV shows as of late, it seemed like Shadow and Bone had 3 really solid episodes at the beginning, and then it just dropped off a cliff. And the only thing that I can assign to it at this moment is that it would have been better as a movie. But there's some other things that I'll get into that I think kind of made it worse than it could have been. There's a lot of these humans who have abilities, they have different names for them. And so between the names of the places and the names of the characters and the names of the Grisha, there's just a lot to keep track of, and you lose track of it. I think a lot of the characters just started making decisions that weren't characteristic of them, and it just made me lose a lot of hope for where I thought the show was going. But very cool characters, very cool universe. So let's dive into the things that make a TV show great. First, we have the plot. The plot started out simple enough, right? It's about this girl who finds out that she's so much more than what she originally thought. She has to go through this process of realizing that she's the very thing that she grew up hating to a certain extent. Not only that, but she is like the top tier version of the thing that she's hated. Throughout this series, there are so many subplots that spring off of the main plot. You get so distracted by all of them that you lose sight of what's really happening in the big scheme of things. I think that made the plot really suffer. It made some other areas suffer as well, but they tried to make it way too busy. And so I have to give the plot a thumbs down. You almost arrive at the end of the TV show not knowing why what's happening is happening, and it was pretty disappointing. Second is family friendliness. While I did jump the shark a little bit on saying that Lock and Key was family friendly, and then rewatching it and being like, my gosh, what have I done? I will say Shadow and Bone is more tame than that show. There are some intense scenes. There are some more mature elements that you may not be okay with your kids watching. This, again, is a TV show geared mainly towards late teens and young adults. If you're in that main demographic that this is targeted towards, it's okay. Any younger, and then it becomes questionable. Acting and script. Here we go. A lot of the acting kind of falls flat due to the fact that there's so much going on that you can't really enjoy what any particular character is doing. There are a ton of characters in this show. It's insane. And they try to focus so much on all of it and include all of it that I feel like a lot of the characters and their performances fall flat. But the script and the person who adapted this to screen just deserves to be slapped in the face. Especially between the Crow crew, there's a lot of dialogue between them that doesn't make sense. And it's just empty, and I found it to be very irritating and annoying. And so I'd have to give acting and script overall thumbs down. Oh boy! Character development. Now here is where the TV show took a huge hit. Because they tried to focus on so much and include so much, there were barely any characters that were developed at all. And I found myself not really caring about any of them. There were 2 that stole the show for me. One was Mal, and the other was Nina. No matter who Mal was on screen with, he was entertaining. He did a great job acting. You identified with his character, you understood his drive. I just loved seeing him on screen. And same with Nina. Nina is just captivating on screen. There's a side plot, another of the freaking 157,000 side plots of this show, where between her and a character, she's Grisha, he hates Grisha, and they slowly start to understand one another as they need one another to survive, and then they start growing affectionate towards one another. That stole the show, and I think it stole a lot of the limelight from Alina and the main plot, and I cared more about Mal and more about Nina than I did about anything else in the show. And they didn't show any backstory to General Alexander until episode 7 of 8, and I think if they would have done that earlier, you would have understood him more as an antagonist and kind of respected who he is. The other character to me who just makes me want to just throw a rock across the ocean, 3 wheat fields, is Jesper. I read some online forums, which you should never do, but I wanted to understand his character more because I wanted to like Jesper. Jesper almost ruins the Crow Crew's motivations and plots the entire show. And they try to build up his character as likable, and the forums say he's quickly becoming a fan favorite. He was my least favorite character of the show, and it wasn't because of who he is or his preferences or anything like that. They wanted to make him some sort of Han Solo type of character, and it went completely wrong for him. Every time he's given a simple task, he ruins it. It also doesn't make sense because the leader of the Crow Crew, he ultimately blames someone else for their failure because of her religious zeal, when instead the person who has pretty much risked their entire mission over and over and over again is Jesper. That really pissed me off. Jesper's character is really weak, and for no other reason than they try to just laugh off the fact that he almost gets all of them killed and destroys what they're doing at every chance he gets. Jesper is the worst part about this show, hands down. The lack of character development and them focusing on the wrong characters and building up their characters really weak, I have to give character development a thumbs down. CG. In episode 1, there is a scene where the CG is really good, and I was super excited for where it might go, but it's back and forth with this show. I'll give CG a thumbs up because it didn't destroy it for me. Really, the rest of the show did enough of that. Finally, rewatchability. I will not rewatch this show, and the reason being is I think it would be much better and rewatchable if it were a movie, because it was so distracted by so many different plot lines and characters, and it really just suffered, and it was painful to watch. The first 3 episodes were fun, but by the end of the show I was annoyed, I was confused. It had so much potential to be something amazing. I have to give rewatchability a thumbs down. So overall, Shadow and Bone had really good bare bones, but it tried to do way too much. Unfortunately, due to all of these issues that arose during the show, I'd have to give Shadow and Bone a 6.5 out of 10. Shadow and Bone, I believe, is getting season 2. There's so much more to the Grishaverse that is left to be told, and I'm excited to see it. I probably will watch a season 2 if it comes out, but I'll have my standards very low because I was very disappointed by this. So if you made it this far, thank you so much for watching. If you think I hit the nail on the head, please let me know. Or if you think I missed some things, please drop it in the comments below. Thank you so much for subscribing and liking my stuff. Let me know if there's a TV show or a movie that you would love to see my analysis of. Appreciate every single one of you, and I'll catch you in the next video.